Good morning, dear student. I am Rajesh, and you are watching Learning SS with Rajesh YouTube channel. Dear students, as you know that we have completed lesson number 1 in history 10th class. So we will start lesson number 2, nationalism in India today. But before starting, happy Janmashtami to all of you. May God Krishna bless you with lot of happiness and prosperity in your life. So, first of all, you know that nationalism in India is important topic in your history 10th class. As you know that 10th class CBSE syllabus is there, and 10th class HBSE syllabus is changed of history. So let's start nationalism in India. The first major point of lesson is why nationalism in India? What were the main reasons that motivated Indian people to grow their nationalism? So there were many reasons of nationalism in India. The first one reason is the nationalism in India was connected to the anti-colonial movement. You know that Britishers were controlling India that time. So it means India was their colony. So it was nationalism connected to the anti-colonial movement. Anti-colonial here means the movement which is against a Britisher. And why this anti-colonial movement or the movement against Britisher? Because people began discovering their unity, because people thought that if they will be united as a society or a united, they can defeat the Britisher and they can compel Britisher to go from India. So that's why nationalism grow in India. And the third point is they were oppressed by colonial government. It means the people of India were oppressed by colonial government. That's why they thought that it should be nationalism should be promoted to defeat the Britisher. I hope you learned the first point, and the first point was that why did nationalism grow in India? And you will tell that nationalism in India was related to anti-colonial movement, and because people were united at that time and people were oppressed by the colonial government, so they grow their nationalism. Now, the major point of the lesson, very important question for exam point of view, why did first world war or how did first world war rise Indian nationalism or affected Indian nationalism? You learned that in ninth class the first world war was fought between many parties or many countries, and you know that it was started in 1914 and end in 1918. So you know that the first world war was fought between 1914 to 1918. After that, what were the main reason or main problem of Indian people? So they fought against the Britisher or Indian nationalism grew after the First World War. The first reason was increase in defense expenditure, because you know that for First World War the Britisher they need a lot of army, a lot of soldiers to fight the First World War. So to meet that expenses, in the Britisher government increased the defense expenditure. I hope you learned the first point. And the next is increasing in taxes. People were very sad because the Britisher government or means the colonial government increased taxes. So example is there, income tax was introduced in India. So due to income tax, many people were affected and their income was also affected. So that's why people revolted against the Britisher after First World War. And the next is price increased. So prices were also increased in India because you know that due to the taxes and due to defense expenditure there was price hike or increasing in price. So that's why people were blaming the British government or colonial government to increasing the prices. And the next point is forced recruitment of soldiers. You know that to fight in the First World War, British government was forcing the Indian soldiers to recruit them in the army, and they will fight for Britain in that First World War. So that's why people were annoyed with the British government, because government was forcing Indian soldiers to recruit in army, Indian people. And next is shortage of food. So during this period, the First World War period, due to the droughts and famines and some other reason, there was shortage of food in India. So that's why people were also blaming, or people were also thinking that the British government is responsible for shortage of food and such type of situations. And next, the final reason was famines and epidemic. You know that epidemic is a disease that affect the number of people in a time. You know that about corona is also an epidemic, and that time that also influenza epidemic at that time during the First World War. So that's why people were annoyed with British government and they started growing nationalism. I hope you got this point easily, why the First World was responsible for a rising nationalism in India. And the next major point of today is a role of Mahatma Gandhi in freedom movement. You know that Mahatma Gandhi is well known leader of Indian freedom movement. So first point related to Mahatma Gandhi is the idea of satyagraha. Mahatma Gandhi ji introduced the idea of satyagraha to get freedom for India. Now, the question in your minds, we don't know about satyagraha. What is the meaning of satyagraha here? Or what is the idea of satyagraha according to Gandhiji? As you know that satyagraha is a word as similar to Hindi word satya. Satya here means truth, and agra here means to emphasize, to focus on truth is known as satyagraha, to focus on truth. So according to Mahatma Gandhi ji, we will read about it also the same. Mahatma Gandhi ji returned to India in January 1915 from Africa. He practiced satyagraha in South Africa to fight against the racial discrimination. And the idea of satyagraha emphasized the power of truth, as we discussed in the first line. The idea of satyagraha emphasized on the power of truth and search for truth also. You should focus on searching truth. So Mahatma Gandhi also said that if you are true, you need not use weapons to win and your truth is weapon for you. So need not use weapon to win, and your truth is weapon for you. He also said that you need not use any weapon to throw out Britisher from India. If you are true, you will win one day. He said that. I hope you learned that point. What were the main views of Mahatma Gandhi ji according or on the basis of satyagraha. And finally, Mahatma Gandhi ji also believed that this dharma of non-violence, you also learned that according to satyagraha, you should focus on non-violence also. And Gandhiji also believed that the dharma of non-violence could unite all Indians. I hope you learned the point of satyagraha also. Now, Gandhiji and satyagraha in India. Gandhiji started satyagraha movement in Africa, you learned now. But Gandhiji also started some satyagraha in India. What were they? First was Champaran Satyagraha. You know that Indian Britisher or East India Company started growing their choice crops in India, and indigo was one of them. So Champaran in Bihar, Champaran Satyagraha was in favor of indigo farmers by Gandhiji, because indigo farmers were annoyed with plant nerds who were forcing them to grow indigo. I hope you learned the first point. Second, Gandhiji started a next satyagraha in Kheda, Gujarat, in favor of or in support of peasants, because the peasants of Kheda, Gujarat, demanding that due to the wastage of or destroying of crops, they are not able to pay revenue. So their revenue should be fixed or refixed. I hope you learned the second point also. And the next satyagraha was started by Gandhiji in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and in favor of cotton mill workers, and cotton mill workers demanding for increasing of wages. And as a result, their salary was increased with the help of Mahatma Gandhi's satyagraha. I hope you learned the next point also. And the next point of the lesson is when people were revolting against the British government with the help of Gandhiji's Satyagraha, the British government decided to uh, pass an act, and the act was known as the Roll Act. And why were Indian protesting Roll Act? The next point. Firstly, you will know about the meaning of Roll Act. The Rowlatt Act was passed in 1919 by British government. This act was, there will be objective type question in exam. When was Rowlatt Act passed by the British government or British Legislative Council? And nextly, I'm sorry for disturbance. According to this, British can repress political activities. The Rowlatt Act was act. According to this act, British can repress political activities. If a leader found making any protest activity or any political activity against the British government can be prisoned without trial for 2 years. So that's why the Rowlatt Act was also known as Black Act by the Indians. And it abolished or it snatched the liberty of Indians. That's why Indian people were protesting the Rowlatt Act. I hope you learned the last one point. Why were Indian protesting the Rowlatt Act? They were protesting the Rowlatt Act due to because their liberty was snatched by this act. So Gandhiji wanted a movement against it, which would start with Hartal on 6 April 1919. So Gandhiji announced that if the government, British government, will not call off that Rowlatt Act, they will start a new movement and or with the Hartal on 6th April. Now let's watch and see, or means let's observe what were the next movement by Gandhiji and what was the action by the British government. Nextly, how did Indian protested Rowlatt Act? Was it started with the help of Hartal on 6th April, or what were the main incidents? Rallies organized by the Indian revolutionaries, workers went on strike for the protest of Rowlatt Act, communication system disrupted, and nextly, what was the reaction by the British? Gandhiji barred from entering Delhi. British government announced that Gandhiji is not allowed to enter Delhi. And they fired upon a peaceful procession when people were protesting Rowlatt Act in a peaceful manner. So British are also fired upon them. And the next point, the British government also announced a martial law. It means martial law was imposed. So according to martial law, all political activities are banned, or it means Indian people are not allowed to gather for a revolt or for a protest. I hope you learned this point. What is martial law according to them? Now, Jallianwala Bagh massacre. It's very important point of the lesson. It will be a 3 marks question in exam. Write a note on Jallianwala Bagh massacre, or Jallianwala Bagh massacre was a black day of Indian history. Justify the statement, and it you will write that on 13 April 1919, Jallianwala Bagh incident took place. As you know that on that day Baisakhi was also there. Large crowd gathered in Bagh. Bagh here means Jallianwala Bagh. Large crowd. Many people were unaware of the martial law. You learned in the previous point. Now, the British government imposed martial law, but many people were unaware of that martial law. So that's why they gathered there. So Dyer, General Dyer entered the area, blocked exit points of that Jallianwala Bagh, blocked the exit points. So the people of that they were gathered there, could not escape. So that's why he blocked the exit points and fired on the crowds, and thousands of people were killed in that massacre. So that's why we can say that it was the black day of Indian history, Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Later on, Dyer declared that his object was to produce a moral effect on Indians. To produce a moral effect on Indians. I hope you learned that point also. What do you know about Jallianwala Bagh massacre? That's all for today, dear students. Happy Janmashtami again. And if you are new on my YouTube channel, please subscribe the channel, like and share also. Thank you and have a nice day.